This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to today's Sports Roundup. We are diving into a historic night in the NBA, a monumental shift in women's college hoops, and the final countdown to the men's national championship game.
Cooper Flagg breaks LeBron James's teenage scoring record.
UCLA women secure their first NCAA basketball title.
The Bruins dominate South Carolina in a near-perfect season.
Joe Adell makes MLB history with 3 home run robberies.
UConn and Michigan prepare for the men's title clash.
Dan Hurley eyes a dynasty against a favored Michigan.
UCLA's team effort ends South Carolina's championship hopes.
North Carolina searches for a new head coach.
Starting with the NBA, Cooper Flagg is making the transition to the NBA look incredibly easy, and his latest performance against the Los Angeles Lakers was nothing short of legendary. The Dallas Mavericks rookie put up a staggering 45 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds, shooting 14 of 27 from the field. This wasn't just a high-scoring night, it was a record-breaking one. By reaching the 40-point mark for the 4th time this season, Flagg officially surpassed LeBron James for the most 40-point games by a teenager in NBA history. He also became the youngest player ever to record a 45-point, 5-rebound, and 5-assist game, a feat that even the greatest legends didn't achieve at 19.
It is wild to think he is still only 19 years old and already drawing comparisons to Wilt Chamberlain in terms of statistical dominance. While the Mavericks aren't heading to the playoffs this year, Flagg is proving to the front office that he is the definitive building block for their future. He seems to be hitting his stride just as the season winds down, showing a level of aggression and efficiency that usually takes years to develop. Facing off against LeBron James while breaking one of LeBron's own records is a poetic passing of the torch. Flagg's ability to get to the free throw line, where he went 13 for 15, shows a veteran-level understanding of how to control the game's pace.
Moving to college hoops, UCLA has finally reached the mountaintop of women's college basketball, securing their first-ever NCAA national championship with a convincing 7-9-5-1 victory over South Carolina. The Bruins were led by a powerhouse performance from Gabriela Jacquez, who scored 21 points, and Lauren Betts, who added 16. This victory was the culmination of a mission set by the senior class after a heartbreaking loss in the Final Four last season. Coach Corey Close spoke emotionally about the journey, noting that while talent was their floor, it was the character of this group that determined their ceiling. They didn't just win, they routed a South Carolina team that has been the gold standard of the sport for years, leading almost the entire game.
The scene in Phoenix was incredible, with Jacquez celebrating on the court surrounded by family, including her brother Jaime Jacquez Jr. of the Miami Heat. This title is the first for the program since the 1978 AIAW Championship, which predates the NCAA's involvement in women's basketball. UCLA's defensive intensity was the story of the night, as they held the Gamecocks to a very low shooting percentage and dominated the glass. For South Carolina, it was a second consecutive loss in the title game, but Dawn Staley's squad remains a threat for the future, with a young core returning. However, Sunday belonged to the Bruins, who finished an incredible 37-1 season by playing their most complete game when it mattered most.
Continuing with UCLA's win, the sheer dominance UCLA displayed in the championship game cannot be overstated, as they led for all but 1 minute of the contest. A crucial three-pointer by Kiki Rice at the end of the first quarter pushed the lead to double digits, and South Carolina never got within striking distance again. The third quarter was particularly decisive, where the Bruins turned a 13-point halftime lead into a massive 29-point cushion. Gabriela Jacquez was the engine of that run, making hustle plays on both ends of the floor and finishing with 10 rebounds and 5 assists to go along with her scoring. It was a masterclass in execution that made the entire fourth quarter feel like a celebratory formality for the UCLA faithful.
This win also carries significant weight for the Big Ten, marking the conference's first women's basketball national title in 2007 years. The senior class, featuring Betts, Jacquez, Rice, Gianna Kniepkens, and Charlize Leger-Walker, is now headed to the WNBA draft as legends. Lauren Betts, the star center who transferred from Stanford, cemented her legacy with 14 points and 11 rebounds in her final collegiate game. Coach Corey Close has spent 15 seasons building UCLA into a powerhouse, and this championship is the crowning achievement of her 358 wins with the program. They proved that a veteran roster combined with elite coaching can dismantle even the most formidable opponents, finishing a near-perfect season with the ultimate prize in hand.
Now to the diamond. In what might be the greatest individual defensive performance in Major League Baseball history, Angels outfielder Jo Adell robbed 3 home runs in a single game. On Saturday night against the Seattle Mariners, Adell single-handedly preserved a 1-0 victory by leaping at the wall 3 separate times. The first robbery came in the opening inning against Cal Raleigh, setting the tone for the night. Then, in the 8th, he denied Josh Naylor a game-tying shot, with an identical leaping catch. But the most spectacular play happened in the 9th, when Adell raced to the right field corner, launched himself into the air, and crashed into the first row of bleachers, emerging with the ball to secure the final out and the win.
Even former Gold Glover Torrey Hunter, who now works in the Angels front office, was stunned, calling it the best defensive game he has ever seen. Hunter noted that he had never seen a player fall into the stands and maintain possession like a wide receiver staying in bounds. Adell credited his success to pure grit and improved route running, noting that by the 3rd catch, he knew he just had to get it done for the team. It is incredibly rare for an outfielder to have 1 home run robbery in a game, let alone 3 in a contest decided by a single run. This performance solidifies Adell's reputation as an elite defender after being a Gold Glove finalist just a year ago.
Back to college basketball. The stage is set for the men's NCAA National Championship game on Monday night in Indianapolis, featuring a heavyweight clash between UConn and Michigan. The Wolverines enter the game as favorites after a dominant semifinal performance where they dismantled Arizona, leading by as many as 30 points. Michigan is chasing its first national title in 37 years, and they look like a true juggernaut, despite an injury to star player Yaxel Lendeborg. Lendeborg has pledged to play through the pain, knowing that immortality is just 40 minutes away. For Michigan, this is a chance to end a long drought and prove they are the best team in the country after a season of consistent excellence and high-level execution.
On the other side, Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies are looking to cement a modern dynasty. A win on Monday would give UConn its 3rd national championship in just 4 years, a feat that would place Hurley among the greatest coaches in the history of the sport. The Huskies have appeared unsinkable on the tournament stage, relying on a balanced attack and a relentless defensive identity. This is actually the first time these 2 storied programs have met in the NCAA tournament, and they haven't played each other at all in a decade. With Ian Eagle and Bill Raftery on the call, the atmosphere at Lucas Oil Stadium will be electric as these 2 giants battle for the right to cut down the nets.
More on the final. UConn's path back to the title game was paved by a stifling defensive performance against Illinois, where they held the Illini to just 62 points. While the Huskies didn't enter this year's tournament with the same overwhelming hype as previous years, Dan Hurley's personal expectations never wavered. He has instilled a culture of winning in stores that makes them dangerous regardless of their seed or underdog status. Interestingly, for the first time in their recent championship runs, the Huskies are considered the underdogs heading into the matchup against Michigan. This shift in narrative doesn't seem to bother Hurley, who thrives on the us-against-the-world mentality that has defined his tenure and brought the program back to national prominence.
Michigan's head coach, Dusty May, has a chance to start his own historic legacy in just his 2nd year at the helm. A victory for the Wolverines would be the first for a Big Ten team since 2000, ending a long period of frustration for the conference. The health of Yaxel Lendeborg remains the biggest question mark, but Michigan showed against Arizona that they have the depth to stay competitive even when their stars aren't at 100%. The game tips off at 8:50 p.m. Eastern on TBS, TNT, and TrueTV. Whether it is UConn cementing a dynasty or Michigan reclaiming its former glory, The stakes couldn't be higher for these two programs as they face off in the final game of the season.
Returning to the Bruins, the closing minutes of the women's championship game were a celebration of UCLA's collective effort, as stars like Lauren Betts and Kiki Rice were subbed out with under 4 minutes left. They shared emotional hugs with Coach Corey Close, knowing the job was done. Even after the starters left, the intensity didn't dip, as senior Gabriela Jaquez hit a final three-pointer to push the lead to 34 points, before she too headed to the bench to the chance of MVP from the UCLA student section. They entered the game as underdogs against a South Carolina team making its 5th title appearance since 2017, but the Bruins played with a level of focus and aggression that left no doubt about who the better team was.
South Carolina struggled significantly with their shooting, finishing just 18 for 62 from the field. Coach Don Staley credited UCLA's defense for those woes, noting that the Bruins consistently pushed her players off their spots and dominated the boards. UCLA out-rebounded the Gamecocks 49-37 and scored 40 points in the paint, showing a physical dominance that South Carolina usually inflicts on others. By the time the third quarter ended with UCLA up by 29, the game was effectively over. This victory honors the legacy of UCLA legends like Ann Myers Drysdale, while carving out a new chapter for the program. It was a complete team effort that proved why this Bruins squad was the most resilient team in the tournament.
Finally, the coaching search. The search for the next head coach at North Carolina is heating up, nearly 2 weeks after the program fired Hubert Davis. As one of the true blue bloods of college basketball, the opening has attracted significant interest, but several top candidates are already off the board. Alabama's Nate Oates recently signed a massive contract extension to stay with the Crimson Tide, removing him from consideration. Similarly, Michigan's Dusty May has reportedly informed officials that he will not pursue other jobs, focusing instead on his current championship run with the Wolverines. This leaves Chicago Bulls head coach Billy Donovan as a primary target for the Tar Heels, though any potential move would have to wait until the NBA regular season concludes on April 12th.
Donovan is an intriguing option because he hasn't coached in college for over a decade, but his track record at Florida, where he won back-to-back national titles, is legendary. The timing is tricky as the transfer portal opens on April 7th, and UNC would ideally want a coach in place to manage the roster. However, with the Bulls likely missing the playoffs for a 4th straight season, rumors about Donovan's future in Chicago continue to swirl. If the Tar Heels can't land a big name like Donovan, the pressure will mount on the athletic department to find a leader who can restore the program to its championship standards. For now, the fan base is left waiting as the coaching carousel continues to spin.
That wraps up our sports briefing for today. Make sure to follow us for your next daily update on the stories that matter most. We will see you tomorrow.